Welcome back, everyone. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. This will be my full Star Wars Skeleton Crew Episode 5 video. Did not expect a new Star Wars episode to be releasing on Christmas. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, a lot more of Jude Law using the Force, a whole bunch of lightsaber jokes, and a whole bunch of Goonies references. A lot of space Goonies going on in this episode. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos, so we'll break it all down. The actual episode title was You Have a Lot to Learn About Pirates, a reference to Renaud's booby traps and pirates valuing treasure above life, and it's also a reference to Jude Law valuing the treasure of At-Aten, the endless treasure, because it's an Old Republic mint. He can literally make as much money as he wants, causing him to betray the kids in the episode, turning on them finally. But they've been building up to that for a while now, like we were expecting this to happen. The question is, will he try to redeem himself by saving their lives at the end of the series, because there's still 2 episodes left and Brutus and his pirates are still alive. Only some of the pirates died this week. So he still has a couple chances to redeem himself after this big betrayal here. But it does seem like next week he's going to be chasing them down with a lightsaber in hand. That was actually a pretty cool moment in the episode, like probably one of my favorites. That and also the joke of Wim messing up with the lightsaber, activating it the wrong way, and then losing it. There were a lot of jokes like that in the episode, like needle drop moments where they have this big build up and then this hilarious payoff. Particularly with the whole concept of Renaud's pirate lair that's meant to be on this Skull Mountain, this really terrifying place that's been turned into a pleasure planet, like a pleasure resort in the future. The actual opening scene starts at the main systems building that Neil said his mother works at with the other parents. Most of the parents are meant to work at this place. It's basically a glorified bank, we find out. Wim's father's cubicle, everyone's cubicles, just remind me of Andor with Cyril Karn's cubicle farm and the one they put Dr. Pershing in on The Mandalorian later in the timeline. This show is actually meant to take place in the present day near when Mandalorian Season 3 was happening too. So this is actually all going down around the time that Dr. Pershing was on Coruscant getting killed. But doesn't it kind of seem like there are a lot of space cubicle farms showing up in the Star Wars universe nowadays? He starts to try and find more information on the kids with the help of the others. They plan to steal an access code to the barrier around the planet so they can try to find the kids. We get a much better look at Neil's mother, too. This is what his father looks like. They started to release some more official artwork of all the other characters. This will basically be what Neil looks like when he grows up. She gives him a homemade device that they constructed to break into the system. The reason why this is meant to be such a big deal is because Wim's father has made such a huge deal his whole life about following the rules, doing what he's told, not stepping out of line. He tries to lie to the security droid, which detects an energy surge at his computer, meaning these security droids really do have the planet on total lockdown. There are a couple funny moments with him just being a terrible liar, like the droid sees through his lie almost immediately. This is also meant to be a reference to Neil's character, like Neil is like this too, terrible liar. With the twist being that Fern's mother is also in charge at this facility. She's basically their boss, so she has the authority to override the security droid's programming and get him to wipe everything from his memory so she can also help the other parents too. There's a brief moment where it seems like she still wants to try and use the official channels and get help from the quote-unquote supervisor, which I think we're all on the same page that there probably is no actual supervisor in that tower. Like, it's probably an empty tower with like a security protocol or like an AI system that's just gone off the rails this whole time. There are a lot of theories about what happened with the original captain of the ship, but when we learn the truth of Captain Renaud, the whole idea is that he died before he ever made it to the planet, so like there's no old pirate that's like the new supervisor. And the ship itself had been crashed on the planet for what seems like hundreds of years. So really SN-33 is like the only thing that survived that crash. So at least without more evidence, it just seems like right now, the system that's protecting the planet, like this glorified AI security system, has just been running amok, like going way beyond its programming for many, many hundreds, maybe thousands of years. She finally agrees to help the other parents, so their whole goal now is to get a message past the barrier that the kids can find and use that to find their way back home. But the other idea is that they get a message past the barrier, other people could probably see that message too, like the New Republic in the Pirates. So part of the twist here being the last couple of episodes, the rest of the galaxy might eventually learn about the presence of At-Aten, which raises a bunch of concerns too, because it's a mint, you can make theoretically endless money, but I'll talk about this later in the video too. One of the problems with that is that if you actually did start printing infinite money, it would cause rampant inflation. Like, it's actually a very bad thing to have infinite money. It would really only work if like Jude Law or like one character just printed like a little bit of money anytime they actually needed to spend money on something. Otherwise, you don't want like limitless money just flowing all over the universe. This is why you stay in school, kids. You'll learn about finance and debt. Consequently, this is also why at the kids' classroom, all their lessons seem like they were around currency, banking, money in general. It'd be like if every college on your planet only taught money. What do you go to college for? What are you going to get your degree in? Money, banking, accounting, and like that's it. All because the planet is like a glorified Fort Knox of the universe. Back on the ship, they joke about reactivating SN-33 with nobody wanting to be the one to try since they're still afraid he's going to kill them, which he reveals the original captain was the same Tak Renaud that Jude Law mentioned last week when they thought they'd found At-Aten. He said Renaud's ghost as if it was this exclamation like, you can't believe it because it's this mythical figure in the pirate world. Tak Renaud is not a character from a previous Star Wars universe, or I even think from the Legends. I think they just invented him for the purposes of this show. But this causes Jude Law to recognize the ship is the Onyx Cinder, his mythical ship. We've known that for months because of the Lego sets and other merch that came out a long time before the show ever premiered. But the idea is the Onyx Cinder in the context of the show is meant to be like One-Eyed Willie's ship from Goonies or Billy Bones' ship from Treasure Island. Them saying Tak Renaud is the most infamous pilot in the history of the galaxy. Jude Law tells them his story. After a lifetime of plundering different planets, amassing massive treasure, he just disappeared while trying to find At-Aten. But now we know the rest of his story, like he actually did find At-Aten. But he died trying to hide its location and trying to fight his mutinous crew. SN-33 reveals the actual location is hidden at Renaud's lair beneath Skull Ridge Mountain. More Goonies plot going on here. Whole lot of Goonies comps during the episode, like a whole lot of Goonies energy. But a lot of you might remember this is kind of ironic because this is probably where SN-33 in the ship's autopilot was originally going to take the kids when they first took off from At-Aten. Like they said, take them home, and they had the autopilot on. SN-33 was like, oh great, I'll take you home then. He was probably taking them to Captain Renaud's home at the Skull Ridge Mountain before they aborted the autopilot and then had him take them to the nearby pirate base. So part of the joke here is that they had done nothing, they just let the autopilot do its thing. They would have made it to the pleasure planet, it would have made it to the treasure way faster, and found their way home much faster. They have another joke with their bindings being useless, and had SN-33 wanted to kill them, they could have done so at any time. Like he just sits up and the bindings fall right off of him. Then he winds up telling them the truth of Renaud's last days. While en route to At-Aten, the crew of his ship went mad with greed, Renaud fighting all of them, then his concubine stabbing him. Love the joke about Jude Law not wanting to explain that part, like, what's a concubine? We literally just had the Dune Prophecy series, I did episode videos for that. Concubines, very common in the Dune universe. You'll find out what concubines are when you're older, kids. I'm gonna go ahead and guess there's not a whole lot of concubine stuff going on At-Aten just because everything is so above board there. But the detail here, SN-33 saying that his concubine killed Renaud with his own dagger, means the dagger that Jude Law pulled out of the skeleton was Renaud's dagger, and the skeleton he pulled it out from was Renaud himself. And he caused the rest of the crew to die when the ship crashed into At-Aten. Eventually the landscape just grew over it over what seems like hundreds of years, like a very long time, and then nobody on the planet found out about it or remembered it. So the whole idea here is that the only thing that actually survived from that ship this whole time is SN-33. Like, nobody survived the crash, meaning the SN-33 just powered down after they crashed. Notice Wim is like the only one who is not excited to get a bedtime pirate story, and he loves stories. That was his whole thing in episode 1. There are a couple other info dumps here too. SN-33 does a little bit of exposition. He reveals he was also built inside Renaud's lair. The rat is also still living in his eye too, like it keeps poking out every once in a while. I just wonder if the rat is now feeling like this is his home and doesn't want to leave and will just die of old age inside his head. There are a couple funny moments with Jude Law trying to give Wim a pep talk, just doing a terrible job of it. Like first he's disgusted to find him crying, like, oh, you're crying, I don't want to have anything to do with that. But then as he talks to him, we get a little bit more of his backstory sort of creeping out without him literally telling what happened to him as a child. When he tries very poorly to explain to Wim how to let go of all of his attachments, he basically gives Wim a Cliff's Notes version of the Jedi's teachings, all about giving up attachment. I think because as a child, he was probably a Jedi Padawan before Order 66, but never fully became a Jedi because like later, Wim is like, how did you pick up the pad? Like he gives him his space iPad back using the Force. He's meant to be about the same age as the Mando is in present day, and remember, they were young kids around the time of Order 66. So what probably happened is that he was in training but wasn't a full Jedi Knight yet, and then just left surviving Order 66 and became a pirate to try and survive over the years. It maybe just did not train in the Force, so he's much weaker now than he was before, like he's lost a lot of his skills. They kind of did an arc like that with Grogu's character, where like he's slowly remembering his Jedi teachings now. But it would be a way to explain why Jude Law is able to use the Force. He's Force sensitive, but he doesn't have a lot of Jedi skills. Speaking of which, I also think it's the reason why he uses the Force so many times in this episode, like way more per episode than we saw him using the Force in previous episodes combined. Particularly to build up to that moment at the end where he Force pulls the lightsaber and activates it. They also kind of imply the whole talk about giving up attachment to your family is that Jude Law is remembering having to let go of his family when he went to the Jedi Academy to train. But the whole idea here is that he's meant to be giving a very poor version of a Jedi lesson to Wim. When he says your focus determines your reality, that also feels like something that his original Jedi Master probably taught him when he was a Padawan, and he's trying to give like a poor version of that to Wim. Like, I kind of remember the lessons that I got when I was a little kid, but not all the lessons, and I don't remember them that well. They arrive at the planet where Skull Ridge Mountain is supposed to be located to find Renaud's lair, and they're calling it Lanupa, with the joke being that now in present day they've turned it into a pleasure planet, like a bunch of greedy developers moving in and placing a resort on top of an ancient Indian burial ground or something like that. You can think of this as like a joke on capitalism or something like that. Like imagine turning a really ancient, very valuable, very dangerous pirate lair into a bunch of condos. When the police ships greet them, this feels like a comp to Han Solo arriving at Cloud City being met by the security force, also to set up the joke at the end of the episode with Brutus's pirates just shooting them dead on the spot. SN-33, for like the first part of the episode here, keeps talking about all these names that the planet used to be called by: Demon's Rest, Battleworld, now essentially, like I said, paved over with developers turning it into a resort. When they say the place is for adults only, that makes it sound like some sort of debaucherous spring break Girls Gone Wild situation. Like, no, like this is too spicy for little kids. When Jude Law says, "You can trust me," obviously a big lie because it's meant to set up his double cross at the end of the episode, he takes every last Old Republic credit the kids have to pay for the room at the resort. This also feels like a bit of a Home Alone 2 reference, where he winds up staying at like the most expensive suite and spending a whole bunch of his parents' money. Love the whole joke here where he tries to pass the little kids off as a bunch of ancient midgets. The Bradtrix system that he mentions is brand new to Star Wars, like they just created it for the show. If you think there are any Easter eggs in the way the kids are dressed too, let me know in the comments, but I didn't spot any specific references. When he says he'll translate to Basic, Basic is basically like the common language of Star Wars, like the most simple one that most races around the galaxy speak. It's like their version of English, basically. He winds up Force pulling Renaud's knife back to him, like I said, one of the many times he uses the Force in the episode, I think to set up the Force pull of the lightsaber at the end of the episode. They stick the restraining bolt on SN-33, mostly for comedy, because he winds up taking it off at the end of the episode. And they basically reveal that the entrance to Renaud's lair is part of the actual spa itself. The whole thing about the heightened security and the banking clan summit going on here, I think it just meant to be for background, like the reason why there's so many security guards running around. There are a couple Easter eggs for that when they actually show the mud baths too. The banking clan in the Star Wars universe is mostly made up of the Moons, who we saw during the prequels. Like they referenced the banking clan several times during the prequels is construction for the Death Star. Like you gotta get the money from somewhere. One of the other fun connections in Star Wars lore between the Mun, the banking clans, and the Sith is you remember that Emperor Palpatine's Sith Master was Darth Plagueis the Wise. He's a Mun that we saw during the Acolyte series. Darth Plagueis was a wealthy banker as part of the banking clan. That's how he financed a lot of his Sith plans, and it was basically his daytime persona while he hid his true identity, and it's one of the reasons why he had so much influence in the Senate that he set up Palpatine to become part of the Senate, like the whole long-term plan to take control of the Senate. Really expensive to take over the galaxy. Like I said, gotta get the money from somewhere, and he's from a very, very wealthy banking clan. There are a couple jokes with the concierge slyly asking him for more bribes after they see the kids acting like actual little kids. Like at a certain point, the disguise just breaks down. They start playing around like you would expect little kids to. When he uses the Professor Gorlock's reservation, that's also a brand new character in the episode that didn't previously exist in the Star Wars universe. There are a lot of things like that, characters that they just create for the series. Then another bounty hunter shows up revealing that Jude Law has been using a bunch of fake names around the galaxy, and when he was with her, he was using the name Dash Zenton. That feels like a Dash Rendar reference. Everybody remembering Shadows of the Empire back in the day. We will see if they ever actually do a live-action version of Dash Rendar. The closest they've gotten to canonizing him in like the newer Disney-era Star Wars was putting his spaceship in that big scene in Rise of Skywalker at the end when all the New Republic ships and the other ships show up to fight the Sith. I believe she's meant to be a Paladuvan, which is the same race as Aura Singh. He doesn't remember her name because of course he doesn't, but it's Pocket. She's also a new character in Star Wars, but you might recognize her. She's like the next big cameo during the series. It's actually Kelly MacDonald, who co-starred with Jude Law and Anna Karenina, so this is also something of a reunion in real life for them too, not just in the context of the episode. Like, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time since we did that big movie together. They reveal he betrayed her too and left her high and dry to die. A common theme, it's a pirate's life. He betrays the kids too at the end of the episode. So like this is all building up to a big betrayal on his part. He's shown many times in the past that he will always double-cross people. They reveal the real reason she's here. It's because she's a bounty hunter still for a high-paying private client, and there's a bounty on his head that she's also trying to collect. The low-rent guild jobs also feels like a reference back to The Mandalorian. Remember, this show is meant to be a spin-off of The Mandalorian. It's meant to take place around the time Mandalorian Season 3 and Ahsoka Season 1 are happening. And the whole idea is the beginning of the show, Mando was working for the bounty hunting guild on Navarro for Greef Karga. But that was just one outpost of the guild, not the entire guild itself. This also has the side effect of him realizing that there's probably a bounty on him and on the kids too. Like, oh crap, there is probably a bounty on us. We need to move fast. The Bacta soak she mentions is basically a nicer version of taking a dip in a Bacta tank. We've seen many examples of that in Star Wars, particularly recently too. Like everybody remembering Darth Vader just chilling out in his tub 24/7. Seriously, anytime that he's not out killing people, he's inside that tub. There are a bunch of Star Wars insults and turns of phrase they also bring back in this episode too. She uses an old Star Wars slang term from Phantom Menace, calling him a Sleemo. Anakin Skywalker used that term as an insult. It's meant to be a Hutt insult because the Hutt Syndicate is so powerful in the outer rim of the galaxy. Most pirates, scoundrels, smugglers, other traitors in the galaxy speak their language along with Basic. It's probably like the second most common language in the Star Wars universe. He dumps the rest of his credits to keep the concierge from trying to get the bounty on him herself, like, please do not check if there is a bounty on me, because there's definitely a bounty, and you could definitely earn a lot of money from that. They use the wizard slang term again, which is also from Phantom Menace. There are a couple mentions of wizard in this episode and in previous episodes. The producers also said one of the notes they got from Lucasfilm is like, please don't overuse the term wizard too much. Like there's always notes that you get from Star Wars lore people at Lucasfilm, like these are the things you're allowed to do, these are the things you can't reference. Most of the time, they just tell people to pull back on some of the references, like don't use this too many times. When the kids say the suite looks a lot like a palace, the architecture feels like it's giving vibes of the prequel architecture. They make it seem like KB is afraid to go into the tunnels because she's claustrophobic, and they go to the trap door at the very end of the episode. They'll probably follow up on that bit during next week's episode when they're actually in the tunnels trying to escape. Pocket then calls in the bounty to Brutus, bringing the pirates to the planet, but not all of them. Brutus stays behind. He only sends some of his pirates. There are a couple background jokes of the kids while they're going around trying to find the entrance, like there's a Hutt dipping in the bath here who just eats one of the help like, oh no, not again, as if he's tried to eat other members of the help on a regular basis. Which seems like a Hutt kind of thing to do. Like imagine Jabba just eating his help left and right. Speaking of Jabba the Hutt and the other Hutts in the Star Wars universe, another big reveal about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, they just revealed that Jeremy Allen White from The Bear is going to be doing the voice of Rada the Hutt during the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, but like the older version. So a lot of you remember Rada the Hutt from like the very early Clone Wars episodes. Whatever happened to that baby Hutt? Well, apparently when he comes back during the Mandalorian and Grogu, he'll be super swole. So like imagine a six-pack of abs version of Jabba the Hutt. All the trauma that he experienced during the Clone Wars with Ahsoka caused him to get super ripped. There's already been extensive memes about this on Star Wars Twitter. In the background, when they're sneaking around, notice there's a couple moon in the mud baths, because remember, this is like a retreat for the banking clan right now. They have the reveal of the guard knowing the real Professor Gorlox from Scipio, which is an ice planet in the Star Wars universe. They actually use that during the Clone Wars episodes, so like even though Gorlox is a brand new character, the place he comes from is a place we've seen before. He starts shouting off all the fake names that Jude Law is known by, all of his aliases. One of the other ones is Jodwick Zank, which also isn't meant to be a name from previous Star Wars lore. I think they just created for the episode. KB uses her wrench to take out the guards by opening the mud valve. She's probably one of the most clever characters on the show. Like, she almost seems like she's more clever than Jude Law's character. They have the next big twist revealing that Wim totally won over that giant alien Cathalops by telling a tall tale about their adventure on At Akron, and then helps them by bashing open the entrance to the pirate lair. I think in the context of the Star Wars universe, he's meant to be a new character, but it feels like the name Cathalops is a Cthulhu reference because it's a huge tentacle monster, just happens to be a very nice one. When the kids promise to tell him the rest of their story someday, maybe they'll pay this off at the end of the show, or like they send him a message with the rest of the story, the way things played out. All the booby traps that they're trying to get through, all the riddles, feels like a Goonies and Indiana Jones Last Crusade reference too. Mostly Goonies though. With the joke of the first one being that the kids only survive because they're shorter than the beams, they were designed for taller people. One of the guards winds up biting it just to show you there are some stakes here, and to set up the reveal with the acid twist at the end of the episode, like refill the chamber with the acid. They basically use Brutus's pirates here, and Space Steve Urkel is a Fratelli's Goonies reference too. They're like the Fratellis chasing the Goonies through the tunnels to get One-Eyed Willie's treasure. This whole riddle of the acid, all who enter paradise must make the greatest sacrifice, is both a Goonies and Indiana Jones reference. Jude Law then says the title of the episode, he says the name of the thing inside the thing, everybody pointing at the screen, you have a lot to learn about pirates, in reference to the solution of the riddle, like, a greatest sacrifice to a pirate isn't life, it's money, because pirates kill people all the time. Their most prized thing is literally treasure. Using the Force, again, like another time he uses the Force to push the Old Republic credit to drain the acid. They enter Renaud's treasure room, they use a wizard reference again, and when he tells them not to touch any of the treasure, this also feels like an Indiana Jones Last Crusade reference, like the treasure itself is booby-trapped. Like there's one piece of treasure here that is not booby-trapped, and that's the actual information itself. They pass a golden idol that kind of looks like the god of Neil's elephant people. He looks at it like there's maybe some history on At Aten that's been lost over the centuries, like, wow, my people have a god, like, why does it look like me? There's probably a bunch of other Easter eggs like this just hidden in the treasure in the background, so if you think you spotted any, write them below in the comments. But the real big thing here, like the real big Easter egg, is the actual lightsaber itself. It's not clear whose it belonged to before this, but it's sort of like Chekhov's lightsaber because Wim is obsessed with it, and his big thing is not being able to not touch things. Like anytime he sees something, he wants to pick it up or touch it. Building up to the reveal at the end of the episode when he tries and fails to use it. The whole bit with the roast and the trapdoor also feels like a reference to Indiana Jones and the Idol. They get the coordinates, and because they have access to Renaud's booby trap system now, refill the chamber with the acid, killing most if not all the pirates, so RIP to Space Urkel. Remember though, Brutus is still alive, and he said he was only sending 2 of his ships, so there are probably more pirates that will show up in the final 2 episodes. Then we get the recording from Renaud himself sitting on the throne. And the twist here, when he says, how come it's all blurry? How come we can't see his face? Is because it might wind up being somebody recognizable in the Star Wars universe, or there might be like a statue of them somewhere in one of the planets. But he explains the actual treasure on At Aten that people keep talking about, the legendary treasure, is actually the last Old Republic mint, meaning it's a place where the Old Republic minted new currency, new gold pieces. So essentially it's like a Fort Knox inside the Star Wars universe where they can print as much money as they might want. But like I said, that's not as good as it sounds. It'd really only be useful if like one person like Jude Law were to be printing as much money as he wanted. If you flooded the galaxy with too much currency, it would cause rampant inflation, and everything would cost like insane amounts of money, and it would essentially devalue all money. So if he were really being smart about it and he could print infinite money, he would just print whatever he needed at any given time. Like, okay, I want to buy a new spaceship, I'll print enough money for that, and that's it. Side twist too, because the Shadow Council is trying to bring the Empire back. You have the First Order, like other evil organizations, the remnants of the Empire in Thrawn out here. Thrawn would also want to be able to print infinite money because he wants to build up his forces. We will see how they resolve this whole storyline at the end of the episode. Like either they destroy the mint or they keep it around, but find a way to keep other people like the Empire, like Thrawn, the remnants of the Empire, from using it. And because of the way they've been portraying the New Republic of being so ineffective and a bunch of idiots in the recent Star Wars series, it kind of sounds like if the New Republic got their hands on this too, they would also do something terrible, like they would make some terrible decisions. So early theory is at the end of the series, they do something that prevents both the New Republic or the remnants of the Empire from ever getting their hands on it. But the real big twist here is the thought of having infinite money to him is enough to make him betray the kids, causing the turn. He uses the code that SM-33 is bound by, the Pirates Code, against him, challenging Fern so that he can gain control of SM-33. That's the whole reason he's doing this. Like, he doesn't want to kill the actual kids. He just wants control of SM-33 so that he can control the ship. He uses the Force again to disarm her. Then we have that moment with Wim standing his ground, trying to pull the lightsaber. It's a great moment, but with a hilarious consequence of him just not knowing how to use the lightsaber. Fern yields, he tries to take them prisoner, but then they escape through the trap door. With them ending the episode, the reveal of him force pulling the lightsaber, activating it with a very devilish look on his face, like he's going to chase these kids down, swinging the lightsaber at them. But I think really what we're heading towards is Brutus and the other pirates making it to At-Aten along with them, and him maybe trying to redeem himself by saving the kid's life from the pirates. It really feels like they're trying to make him be like Han Solo if Han Solo could use the Force. You meet him in A New Hope, he's a scoundrel, he's a smuggler, but by the end of A New Hope, he turns good and joins the rebellion. So it feels like Jude Law's character might do something good at the end of the series where, like, he doesn't totally turn good, like, he's still a very morally great character, but he does try to save the kids and redeem himself a little bit. My assumption is that episode 6 next week, they'll make it back to At-Aten by the end of that episode and just spend the last 2 episodes on At-Aten resolving all the storylines. We still have Brutus coming for them. The parents on the planet are still trying to send the message out. Like I said, they could be picked up by a number of different people. But my full episode 6 video will post next week after they release it. And if there's any other Easter eggs or references that you spotted in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. Even though it is Christmas and New Year's, there's still a bunch of stuff coming up. We have What If episodes this week, Creature Commandos. I'll be doing videos for everything. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that, and please pray that I get some sleep so I don't die from all the work. Everybody click here to learn about Henry Cavill's new Warhammer series and movies, and click here for all my Skeleton Crew episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.